This is one of the ingredients, Cocoa Bliss. I don't think it matters which cocoa you use at all, as long as you treat it to get rid of the sodium. And I'm going to use calcium nitrate to do that. It comes in these bricks, and I use 2 buckets to soak. And it's really easy in the 2 buckets. Here's the 2 buckets. The first one I put the brick in, and it's got a crack in the bottom, so I use it as a draining bucket. And this one is a regular bucket, and I put this one inside this one. And now when I add water to it, it'll fill because it'll capture in this one, and it'll fill through the crack up. And I'll fill it all the way up till it starts to come out the side here with some calcium nitrate. Then when I feel it's done completely, all I have to do is lift this bucket out and it'll drain. So in here, in my grow room, I've got buckets here. This has got calcium nitrate in it. And this line is used to fill for 50 gallons. So when I take this, a full one, and I put it in a 1 gallon container here and I fill it full of water, then I know I can use it for 50 gallons of nutrient. So I don't need that much since it's a 5 gallon bucket or less. But I want a lot more than normal because I want the calcium to really penetrate. Once I'm done with that and I do it, and the calcium is the one that really soaks it, then I'll rinse the cocoa coir several times because I don't want it to be high in nitrogen in the beginning because it's for seedlings. So I'm going to do this, an initial high concentration of calcium nitrate, and then I will rinse it several times. And this other one, I've got the other 2 parts of Master Blend formula. That's the Master Blend itself, and then magnesium sulfate. These 2 are usually mixed together in a 1 gallon container. You can't mix calcium nitrate and the other 2 components because they'll drop the participants. But anyway, normally I put one of these in 50 gallons. This is the Epsom salt, and I'm going to put about, I'd say 20 gallons or so in this 1 gallon. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And so I'll take and add water to that, and that'll be the second component we add to the cocoa. So I got my double bucket, and I've got my calcium nitrate, magnesium sulfate over there, and I'm going to fill this until it overflows. The amount of water doesn't matter because it's going to drain. Okay, so we'll let this soak until it's completely dissolved, so to speak, and it looks like it's about there already. Yep, it is. So that's good. It's completely dissolved, broken apart. And so we'll let this soak for a little bit, and then we'll pull this top bucket out, which will remove the water from the cocoa. So once I lifted this bucket up, it's now rinsed. A lot of the finer materials from the clay or from the cocoa went into the drain bucket. So I took a strainer and I poured it into here, and then I took the cocoa fines and I popped it back in there because I don't want to waste it. Anyway, we're now ready to add this to it, so I'm going to fill it partially. water from the house. Then I'm going to add the 2 calcium nitrate and magnesium sulfate Epsom salt in here. Nope. I'll get the camera back a little bit so it don't splash up on the screen. Do a slight mix with my hand, add a little bit more. Don't add too much because the bucket is going to displace the water. Then add it in here and let it slowly come up into the cocoa. I don't want to do it too fast. See, it's to the edge here, so we can do it slower. Not that it matters, there's so much in here, but anyway, I'll bring you back once it's soaking. There it is, we have it almost bucket to bucket. It's fully soaking now, and I'll just come out here periodically and mix it like this. And I'll let it soak for probably 4 or 6 hours. Just want to make sure it's buffered. So I don't want to lose the fines that are in the water here, because I need as much of the cocoa as possible, and the smaller particles actually are really good to keep. You can see on the first go how much had gotten around that little screen and holes that are in this bucket. So I'm going to get some more water in here and I'll do the same thing, and then we'll move on to the next ingredient. As you could tell by this 5-gallon bucket that was about 2.5 gallons, or about halfway up, and I'm continuing to rinse it. So I just put some water in it like this so it begins to kind of float a little bit, and then I'll let it drain off. And while I do that and prepare the next one, which is peat moss here, you can see this is the peat moss that I'm using, Majestic Earth. It's from Lowe's, and it's about doubled in price since last year, which is very irritating. But anyway, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to put a bucket full in this bucket over here, and I'm going to take it over here into this grate here, and I'm going to get all the large particles out by rubbing it with my gloves on. And so that'll make a really fine mix additive, because you don't want any big pieces with seed starting mix. Gotta be a little careful when you first start taking it out and you cut it like I did, because I don't want to waste it. It's about $25 for this 3 cubic of peat. So I just try to kind of funnel it here. So, and I show these things a lot of times. Technique is important too, and I don't always do it the best, but it may inspire others to expound upon my technique, or even something more. They may see something that I don't. So now we're getting a little lower than the lip here, so there's not as much waste, and I can carry it up and over the lip. Okay, that's probably just a tad more than half, but this is dry and fluffier. I've used this thing so much in the past. I made it for my first deck leftover pieces here, and it's just become so incredibly handy to have. It's worth doing some things so that you'll have it available when you need it, when you garden, and you'll accumulate these types of things over the years. So and then you have it for a number of years. Some things you don't end up keeping because it's not that helpful, and other things like this one is very, very helpful. So I'll take and I'll finish off this, and I'll show you what it looks like underneath here. It's getting smaller now, and you can see the bigger chunks. And if you haven't guessed it already, actually rubbing my hand across this is actually making the bigger chunks smaller, which is best for seedling. Okay, that's just about it for this first go, and I got a large portion of it out, and this bigger stuff, some weird stuff and some sticks and whatnot, that's definitely not needed. So I'm going to empty this, and then I'll put the remaining and then show you what the final product looks like. This is the final product for the peat, and you'll notice that there's not any chunks in it anymore. There wasn't a whole lot in this batch actually, which is good, but a lot of times it'll be a lot more. So this is very fluffy. Look at it springy. It's springing because it's so light and fluffy. Makes me almost want to put it in my coffee. It looks like it'll add some richness. I joke. Anyway, so this is the second ingredient. It's ready to add to the first. So I'm still rinsing the cocoa. I just want to be thorough about the rinsing. I don't want all that nutrient in it. I'm going to take this little cart here, and I'm going to put it in the mixing wheelbarrow. This is much easier to get out tilting it than trying to grab it by hand. That's good enough for this one. Love this little cart, by the way. I saw someone else on YouTube that had it, and if I knew who it was, I would give them credit. There's not enough credit being given these days. So this is perlite, and we have a place in Little Rock that does this. Let me see if it's on this bag here. Ambient Minerals is the name of it. And so they sell this perlite. It's supposed to be horticultural grade, but it's really small, and not particularly what I would normally prefer. But for seed starting, it's awesome. So I'm just going to get a half of a 5-gallon bucket here, and we're going to take it and toss it in the mixing wheelbarrow for equal components: 1/3 peat, 1/3 cocoa, and 1/3 of this perlite. Now you can't add too much perlite. You can almost do it all in perlite if you wanted. So yeah, it doesn't affect anything. We've got the peat in here, nice and fluffy. We're going to add the perlite. I won't say level, but somewhat level. And then we're going to add the cocoa that we thoroughly rinsed. It's going to have a screen at the bottom that covered that long crack there to help prevent it from spilling out. Now, the cocoa is already completely wet, so we won't need to add any more moisture. We just need to mix it, and it'll be perfect as is. So I'm coming around here, and I'm going to show you the way I mix it. I've tried mixing so many different ways. I've got tools. Hold on one second, I'll show you. Like this little
rake here, and I could do this and do that back and forth and just over and over and over. It will never be as good as if I do it by hand. And I'm going to show you what I do. I reach in and I twist. I reach in and I twist. I'll change the direction a little bit, but that's how I do it. I'll just show you. Real quick, and it mixes very thoroughly. That's probably already good enough, but I'm going to do more, like I usually do everything for good measure. How long did that take? About 15-20 seconds? You tell me. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my little tote, and it's going to stay in there until I get ready to microwave the mix to sterilize it before any seed use. And that's what I do. I use little creamer containers, Coffee Mate. They're about this tall and about that big around. You probably saw me use it for the perlite in this video. Use them for everything. Anyway, I'll take and I'll fill 3 of those up. I'll put the lid on tight, and then I'll back it off a little bit so there's no steam pressure in the microwave. I'll do 3 of those at a time for 3 minutes on high. I'll put the lid back on tight, shake it, then loosen the lid back on. I'll put it back in the microwave, and I'll do that 3 times, and by the time I'm done, the mix, 9 minutes, the mix is steaming. And that, if you're going to do seedlings, brand new plant starts from seed, do not add organic material, because you're adding bacteria and fungi, some of which could be bad, into exposing your seedlings, which could damp off or kill it in a number of different ways. Not to mention the fact that if you don't do it, you're likely going to have bugs. And once you get those things going, it's crazy. So anyway, that's very important. Everything I say about sterilizing, I think, is absolutely a must, especially after I've had bacterial canker in tomato, and looks like now squash mosaic virus, an isolated spot of that. So all this helps, all of it helps. This is my tote for seed starting mix. You can see I've got some in there right here. Same thing, same stuff. And I've got this for adding to any of my seed starting trays. This is that container I was telling you about, the Coffee Mate. And I put 3 of these, put the lid on tight and back off a little bit. Anyway, it's time to get the mix into it, and hopefully I'll have a little bit left over that I can microwave, because I've got to get my second round of parthenocarpic tomatoes started. As a horticulturist and breeder, I'm constantly moving, and I'll be killing off a number of tomatoes that don't meet expectations. So it's time for the second wave. Hopefully I'll get another wave in, completely assessed before fall gets too cold for me. This looks like it's going to work out just great. We got a nice full tote here, and I'll have some left over. It's our microwave. Anyway, I'll put this in here, and my little shovel, cover it up, and I keep this in the shade in the raised bed garden area. Normally I wouldn't do this. I would take the little shovel from the tote and put it in here so it's not all over the edge, but I can rinse that off. All right, I need to get one more container and then I'll have all three.
How